This story begins in a small African village where red dust clung to bare feet and dreams were bigger than houses. Nneka and Emeka were inseparable. Everyone called them the village Romeo and Juliet. They had no money, no land, no connections, only love. At night, under a flickering lantern, Emeka would whisper, "One day, I'll take you far from this life." Nneka always smiled, believing him with her whole heart. One hot afternoon, a letter arrived. Emeka had won a scholarship to study in the UK. The village celebrated, until the joy cracked. The letter demanded £5,000 for visa and flight. Emeka's hands shook. "It's over," he cried. "I'm poor. This dream is dying before it starts." Nneka watched the man she loved break in front of her, and something dangerous formed in her heart. That night, while Emeka slept, Nneka stared at the dark ceiling. She had no parents, no land, nothing to sell, except her own body. Tears rolled down her face as she whispered, "If my pain can buy his future, then let it be so." And with that thought, Nneka made a decision that would change everything. At dawn, Nneka packed a small nylon bag. When Emeka asked where she was going, she forced a smile. "I'm visiting a distant relative in the city," she said. Emeka nodded, distracted by his broken dreams. As Nneka walked away, her legs trembled, not from fear of travel, but from the secret weighing on her chest. She didn't look back. If she did, she knew she might change her mind. The city was loud, fast, and unforgiving. Nneka wandered until she found a dim clinic hidden behind a mechanic workshop. A man in a white coat spoke in hushed tones. "One kidney. Fast money. No questions." Her heart pounded. This wasn't a hospital, it was a gamble with death. Still, she nodded. In her mind, she saw Emeka wearing a graduation gown, smiling proudly. The room smelled of chemicals and fear. No proper anesthesia. No prayers. Just pain. As the knife cut into her side, Nneka bit her lip until blood filled her mouth. "Don't scream," the doctor warned. She didn't. Instead, she cried silently, whispering Emeka's name. Hours later, weak and shaking, she was handed a brown envelope of cash. Her future was gone, but Emeka's had just begun. Nneka returned to the village thinner, weaker, but determined. She wrapped her pain in silence. When Emeka saw her, he rushed forward. "You're back already?" he asked. She nodded and handed him the envelope. His eyes widened at the sight of the money. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice shaking. Nneka swallowed hard and replied, "My late uncle left me something. I just remembered." It was the first lie she ever told him. Emeka fell to his knees. He grabbed a Bible from his room and raised it high. "Nneka, I swear before God," he said, tears in his eyes, "in 2 years I will return. I will build you a house. I will make you my queen." Nneka smiled, though her side burned like fire. She believed him. After all, love had never failed her, yet. The night before Emeka's flight, they sat under the stars. Nneka struggled to breathe, hiding her pain. Emeka spoke endlessly about London, snow, and big opportunities. Before dawn, he hugged her tightly. "Wait for me," he whispered. She nodded. As she watched him leave, Nneka placed her hand over the bandage beneath her clothes and whispered, "I already gave you more than my heart." The first week after Emeka arrived in the UK, his voice filled Nneka's days. Morning calls, night calls. "Did you eat?" he would ask. "Are you resting?" Nneka smiled through pain, pressing the phone to her ear like medicine. Each call felt like proof that her sacrifice was worth it. Love, she believed, could survive any distance. By the second month, the calls changed. From every day to once a week. Emeka now sounded rushed. "Lectures are much," he said. "I'll call you later." Later became tomorrow. Tomorrow became silence. Nneka stared at her phone every night, her body weak, her wound slow to heal. Still, she defended him. "He's building our future," she told herself. Back in the village, life grew harder. Nneka could no longer farm like before. Dizziness came without warning. Some days, She collapsed alone in her hut. As rain leaked through her roof, she whispered into the quiet, "Emeka, I hope you remember me." But across the sea, his silence was already answering. Months passed, and Neka's strength continued to fade. Simple chores became battles. Carrying water left her breathless. Farming under the sun made her vision blur. The cheap surgery had taken more than a kidney, it had stolen her health. Some mornings, she woke up soaked in sweat, clutching her side, wondering if love was supposed to hurt this much. The villagers began to talk. "She thinks she married abroad," one woman laughed. "Her husband has forgotten her." Their words cut deeper than knives. Neka lowered her head and kept walking. At night, she cried silently, not because of the insults, but because part of her feared they were right. Still, she defended Emeka fiercely. "He's busy. He hasn't forgotten me," she insisted. One evening, as her phone finally buzzed, Neka smiled in relief. It was Emeka. The call lasted barely 2 minutes. No affection. No promises. Just excuses. When the line went dead, Neka stared at the dark screen. She placed it on her chest and whispered, "I didn't sell my future for silence, did I?" But hope, though wounded, still refused to die. One quiet afternoon, as Neka rested her weak body, she opened Facebook to distract her mind. Then she saw it. Emeka's name. Her heart jumped with hope until the pictures loaded. There he was, smiling in a thick winter coat, standing in front of tall buildings she had only seen in movies. He looked different. Bigger. Confident. Far away. She scrolled again. This time, her breath caught. Emeka was beside a beautiful, light-skinned woman. Her hand rested comfortably on his arm. The caption read, "New beginnings." Neka's fingers trembled. Her chest tightened. Yet, she forced a smile and whispered, "It's just work. He's surviving for us." She closed the app like someone closing a wound without cleaning it. That night, Neka prayed harder than ever. "God, protect him," she said. "Don't let success change his heart." She ignored the pain screaming inside her body and soul. Love, she believed, was patience. And patience, she believed, would soon be rewarded. She had no idea that waiting was slowly breaking her. Years rolled by like dry seasons with no rain. 1 year became 2. 2 became 5. Emeka's calls stopped completely. No messages. No explanations. Neka's body aged faster than time itself. Her face grew thin, her eyes tired. Every morning, she woke up hoping for a miracle buzz on her phone, but silence always answered first. Unable to do hard labor, Neka survived on small favors and kindness from a few neighbors. Some days, she sold firewood. Other days, she went hungry. At night, pain crawled through her body like fire. She would sit outside, staring at the road, remembering Emeka's promise. 2 years, she whispered bitterly. "You said 2 years." Despite everything, Neka never cursed him. When people mocked her, she stayed quiet. When they called her foolish, she smiled weakly. Deep inside, she still believed Emeka would return and explain everything. He must have his reasons, she told herself. But destiny was already preparing a return, one that would shatter her forever. It was market morning when the sound arrived, engines growling like thunder. Children stopped playing. Traders froze. A convoy of black jeeps rolled into the village, raising dust that kissed the sky. People whispered, "Who is that?" Neka, weak but curious, stepped outside, her heart beating strangely fast, as if it recognized the sound. The car doors opened. A man stepped out in a sharp suit, dark glasses, confidence dripping from every move. The village gasped. "Emeka," someone shouted. Neka's knees nearly gave way. 5 years of waiting rushed into one moment. She ran forward, ignoring her pain, tears already falling. "Emeka," she called, her voice thin but hopeful. As Neka reached for him, Emeka stepped back. He brushed imaginary dust from his suit and looked at her like a stranger. The village fell silent. From the car emerged a stunning woman, polished and smiling. Emeka wrapped an arm around her waist. Nneka froze. Her heart whispered, "This is not how returns are supposed to be." And in that silence, something inside her finally cracked. Nneka stood before Emeka, arms slightly open, waiting for the embrace she had dreamed of for 5 long years. Instead, Emeka's eyes scanned her from head to toe, her worn dress, her thin frame, her tired face. He sighed in irritation. "Why are you touching me like that?" he said coldly. The words hit her harder than a slap. The villagers watched, confused and uncomfortable. Emeka turned to the woman beside him and smiled proudly. "Everyone meet Clara," he announced. "My fiancée. We're getting married this Saturday." Gasps spread through the crowd. Nneka felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "Fiancé?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Clara looked at her briefly, then away, like Nneka was invisible. Tears streamed down Nneka's face as she cried out, "Emeka, I sold everything for you. I sponsored you." Emeka laughed, a loud, careless laugh. He pulled out a bundle of Naira notes and threw it at her feet. "Take this and treat your sickness," he sneered. "You're too local for a UK man. I need class." As the money scattered on the ground, Nneka collapsed, not for the cash, but for the love that had just died in public. The village woke up to loud music and rented canopies. Emeka spared no expense. Food, drinks, decorations, everything screamed success. People attended out of curiosity, not happiness. Whispers filled the air. Is this the same girl he left behind? How can he treat her like that? From a distance, Nneka watched, hidden behind a mud wall, her heart heavy but quiet. Clara arrived glowing, dressed like royalty. Cameras flashed. Emeka stood tall, smiling like a king who had conquered the world. As they danced, the crowd forced applause. No one noticed Nneka slowly walking away, each step painful. She told herself she was done crying. Whatever bound her to Emeka had been cut already. As the music reached its peak, Emeka suddenly slowed. His smile faded. He touched his lower back, confusion crossing his face. "It's nothing," he muttered, then collapsed. Screams erupted. Music stopped. Chairs fell. In that moment of chaos, Destiny quietly stepped onto the stage. The joyful wedding turned into chaos in seconds. Guests ran toward Emeka as he lay on the ground, clutching his back, sweat streaming down his face. Clara screamed and stepped back. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted. The villagers who had mocked Nneka earlier froze, their mouths open in disbelief. The man who once stood tall and proud now seemed helpless, like a fragile child. Emeka was rushed to the nearest hospital. Doctors and nurses moved quickly, but his condition worsened by the minute. Clara followed reluctantly, her heels clicking on the floor, worry masked by annoyance. Nneka, hidden among the crowd, felt a strange mixture of fear and calm. Years of pain and betrayal had taught her patience, and now, it seemed, fate had its own plan. The doctor stepped out of the emergency room, his face grave. "Both his kidneys have failed," he said. "A transplant is urgent. He has less than 24 hours to survive." Clara's face twisted in disbelief and fear. "I can't give him mine. I have a career. I can't have a scar." She stormed off, leaving Emeka staring up at the ceiling, alone and desperate. Nneka's heart tightened, knowing she was the only one who could change the ending now. Emeka lay in the hospital bed, pale and shivering. Machines beeped around him, counting down the seconds of his life. In a panic, he begged the doctor, Call Nneka. She will save me. She loves me." His voice cracked, a shadow of the confident man who had returned to the village in black jeeps. For the first time, he realized he had pushed away the only person who truly cared. Moments later, Nneka entered the room. The years of suffering, weakness, and sorrow had shaped her into someone quiet but unshakable. Emeka's eyes widened. "Nneka, please forgive me. Give me your kidney. I know you love me." His voice trembled with desperation. He finally saw her not as a villager, but as a woman who had sacrificed everything for him. Nneka looked at him with tears in her eyes. Slowly, she lifted her blouse, revealing a long, healed scar along her side. Emeka, the kidney you are asking for is the one I sold 5 years ago to send you abroad. Emeka froze. Shock and regret washed over him. The realization hit harder than any pain. He had destroyed the only person who ever truly loved him. Neka's silence said more than words ever could. Emeka's face turned pale as the truth sank in. 5 years of selfish ambition, neglect, and betrayal flashed before his eyes. The money he had thrown at Neka, the lies he had told himself, they all meant nothing now. His body shook, but it was his heart that cracked first. No, no, it can't be, he whispered, staring at the scar that marked his betrayal. The doctor observed silently. Machines beeped like a clock ticking down Emeka's last hours. I can't save him without a donor, the doctor said softly. Clara's refusal echoed in the sterile room. Emeka's eyes darted to Neka, begging. But the pain in her eyes told a story louder than words. Love cannot exist where respect and loyalty are absent. Emeka tried to speak, to beg again, but no words could undo what he had done. He reached out weakly, but Neka stepped back, shaking her head. Tears ran down her cheeks, not for him, but for herself. The years wasted, the pain endured, and the love unreturned. Emeka realized, too late, that he had destroyed the only woman who ever sacrificed everything for him. And in that room, regret became a living, suffocating reality. The doctor, the son of the village chief, watched Neka quietly. He had heard whispers about her sacrifice years ago, how she sold her kidney to send Emeka abroad. Seeing her now, frail but dignified, moved something deep within him. He stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. You don't have to suffer alone anymore, he said softly. Neka blinked back tears, surprised by this unexpected kindness. Over the next days, the doctor ensured Neka received proper treatment. Her strength slowly returned. For the first time in years, she didn't have to hide her pain or struggle to survive. Villagers noticed the change. Her posture straightened. Her eyes shone with quiet pride. They began to whisper in awe. She survived and even flourished after betrayal. Emeka lay in the hospital bed, pale, trembling, and unable to speak. The machines beeped, counting down the hours he had left. For the first time, no money, no luxury, no foreign city could save him. Fear gripped him like a vice. His thoughts returned to Neka, the woman who had sacrificed her kidney for him, who had loved him truly while he chased empty dreams. He tried to call out to her, but his voice was weak. Sweat streamed down his face. Every second felt heavier than the last. Neka, forgive me. I was blind. I was a fool, he whispered, tears sliding down his hollow cheeks. But Neka was no longer a girl who would return to him in pain. She had her own life to live, free from his selfishness. Neka walked past his bed, her eyes filled with tears, yet her expression calm. She had nothing left to give him. His last hope, the kidney she could have donated, was long gone, sold to give him a future he had wasted. Emeka's chest heaved as reality sank in. The woman who had truly loved him would never save him. In that moment, he understood the full weight of regret, too late for redemption. Emeka's breaths became shallow, each one slower than the last. Machines beeped like a merciless clock, marking the seconds of his fading life. He clutched at the thin hospital sheets, staring at the ceiling as memories of Neka flooded his mind. The sacrifices he ignored, the pain he caused, the love he betrayed. Every moment of pride, every laugh he shared with Clara, now felt hollow. He whispered weakly, all this was nothing without her. Neka. I was wrong, but Neka's eyes, steady and distant, met his for just a moment. No anger, just sorrow. She had forgiven in silence, but she would not be part of his life again. He finally understood. Love is not measured in wealth or luxury. It's measured in sacrifice, loyalty, and respect. With a final shuddering breath, Emeka closed his eyes. The machines flatlined. Clara, who had abandoned him for vanity, never returned. And Neka, standing quietly, allowed herself a single tear, not for him, but for the girl she once was, who had believed in a dream now shattered. The village watched silently, knowing they had witnessed both tragedy and justice unfold in the same heartbeat. The hospital room grew quiet after Emika's passing. Neka walked slowly to the window, sunlight spilling onto her face. For the first time in 5 years, she felt light, free from expectation, free from betrayal, free from a love that had cost her everything. Her heart still ached, but it was no longer chained by someone who didn't deserve it. With the doctor's care, Neka's health improved. Her weakness faded, her energy returned. She began to rebuild her life in the village. Neighbors who had mocked her before now looked at her with respect. She smiled gently, knowing that true strength isn't measured by wealth or beauty. It's measured by resilience, courage, and the ability to survive even the deepest betrayal. As she walked through the village, Neka reflected silently on her journey. I gave all I had and it was never returned. But I survived, she whispered. She knew that love is beautiful, but it must be met with loyalty and respect. And in this lesson, she found power, power that no wealth, no betrayal, and no heartbreak could ever take away. The girl who once sold her kidney for love was now a woman who had reclaimed her life. The village buzzed with quiet conversations. People still talked about Emika's return and the shock of his collapse. But more than that, they spoke of Neka, the girl who had sacrificed everything and still stood tall. Mothers told their daughters her story. Young men whispered about loyalty. Neka, passing through the market, overheard the words. She didn't smile. She simply walked with quiet pride, knowing she had endured what no one else could. Even the villagers who had mocked her in the past now nodded with respect. She truly loved him, one said. And she survived his betrayal. Neka didn't respond. She had learned that recognition from others was not as important as the peace she felt inside. Her life was hers now, not a story for anyone else to control or judge. That evening, Neka sat outside her small hut, feeling the wind on her face. Her body was still recovering, but her spirit soared. She realized that sacrifice, love, and resilience were not just lessons, they were her inheritance. She had survived the betrayal, the heartbreak, and the illness. She was stronger than the boy who abandoned her, stronger than the village that doubted her, and stronger than any obstacle that life could throw at her. The sun rose over the village, painting the red soil and green trees with golden light. Neka stepped outside, feeling the warmth on her face like a promise. She had endured heartbreak, betrayal, and sickness, yet here she was, alive, whole, and free. The village was waking, but for the first time in years, she felt like she was living for herself, not for anyone else. Neka began tending a small garden, planting seeds with her own hands. Each sprout reminded her that life could bloom even after pain. Children ran past, laughing, and some stopped to wave. Neka smiled softly, realizing that joy didn't require riches, luxury, or approval. It was in the little moments, the small victories, and the quiet peace she had earned. As the morning faded into afternoon, Neka sat under the shade of a mango tree, reflecting on her journey. I loved fully, I gave everything, and I survived, she whispered. The scars on her side were no longer just reminders of pain. They were proof of strength, courage, and endurance. She finally understood that life doesn't always reward sacrifice with love, but it always rewards it with wisdom and resilience. Neka was no longer a victim. She was a survivor, ready for the life she deserved. Years later, Neka had grown into a woman of quiet power. She was healthy, strong, and respected by the entire village. People no longer whispered about her misfortunes. They told stories of her courage. Young girls looked up to her, inspired by a woman who had loved deeply, sacrificed fully, and survived betrayal without losing herself. Neka often walked past the old hospital where Emika had died. She felt a pang of sorrow, but no anger. His choices had taught her a lesson she could never unlearn. Love without respect is empty. She had been loyal, brave, and selfless, But she no longer needed someone else's approval to define her worth. Her heart was finally at peace. Under the mango tree, now fully grown and heavy with fruit, Nneka smiled at the children playing around her. Her scar, once a symbol of pain, now gleamed as a badge of survival. She whispered softly to herself, "I gave all I could, and I survived. That is my reward." And in that moment, the girl who had sold her kidney to give love had found her true ending, not in wealth, luxury, or a man's promises, but in freedom, resilience, and the unshakable strength of her own heart. Meanwhile, Emeka's condition worsened. He lay in the bed, staring at the ceiling, realizing that love and loyalty cannot be bought, borrowed, or manipulated. Nneka, walking through the hospital corridors with steady steps, carried the strength that comes from sacrifice and forgiveness. In that moment, it was clear. Some people give their all, and some, no matter what, never deserved it. Her freedom, health, and dignity were her true reward.